Syad Valley is located midstream on the Klamath River in Siskiyou County, about 15 miles south of the Oregon border. It's surrounded on all sides by the lush, green Klamath Mountains and has a population of less than 500 people, many of them dependent on the fish that inhabit the Klamath River and the area's beautiful creeks. One of those creeks is Fort Goff, a refuge of sorts for the young Chinook, steelhead, and coho salmon that make their way up the Klamath every year.
The salmon populations in the Klamath River are huge. Historically, it was one of the three largest on the entire West Coast. Due to climate change issues and certain dams and a lot of other problems, it's not the great fishery it once was, but it's still a phenomenal fishery. It has huge cultural importance to the Native Americans, recreational importance to local fishermen and guide businesses. It's a big deal to the Iron Gate hatchery, north of Wairika.
But over time, fewer salmon have been able to make the journey up the creeks that feed the Klamath due to barriers like the 15-foot diameter culvert at Fort Goff Creek.
The culvert at Fort Goff Creek, where Highway 96 crosses, was a major barrier for juvenile salmon, especially juvenile coho salmon that were trying to get to the ocean but rely on that cold water refuge up Fort Goff Creek to get out of the Klamath River when it got too hot. So that culvert was blocking fish from getting to cold water habitat upstream.
The threat, not only to salmon, but ultimately to Syad Valleys and the Pacific Northwest economy, could have been devastating. In quite an unprecedented move, representatives from several federal, state, and local agencies partnered together, knowing this was the model watershed with the most potential habitat, to come up with a plan.
I'm the project manager for the Fort Goff Creek Fish Passage Restoration Project. The discussion about this project started with the Fish Pack. Fish Pack is a group of players, if you will, that were concerned about different fish passage issues, and that Fish Pack was made up of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, California Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, and Caltrans. And together they looked at the different fish passages and said, what's our priority? And they prioritized Fort Goff Creek as the highest priority in that.
But financing the project wasn't easy. After more than 10 years, finally a break.
Partly what got it off the ground was U.S. Fish and Wildlife gave the Karuk tribe a grant to do a habitat assessment to confirm that fisheries habitat, and also a barrier assessment to confirm at what flows the culvert was a barrier to the fish passage. Once we had that in hand, we could attempt to get other funding through grants. And we submitted some grants. We weren't successful the first couple grants, and then we started to get some funding.
After other funding was obligated, Caltrans agreed to be a 25% partner, since there were 4 agencies working together to improve the fish passage at Fort Goff Creek. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service gave the project quite a boost by providing $100,000 in seed money to move it forward in the design process. As the project progressed, other funding from the Fisheries Restoration Grant Program, FRGP, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Coho Enhancement Fund allowed the project to gain momentum. However, the project was still not fully funded, so Caltrans continued to search for partners and found a grant from the Federal Highway Administration called the Strategic Highway and Research Program, SHARP-2. Finally, near the time the project was to be awarded to a contractor, Caltrans was able to secure a large sum from the Office of Traffic Safety. The OTS funds were allocated for the construction of the project, along with the Coho Enhancement Funds and the FRGP grant. Together, all the funds provided the support and capital for the design, environmental, right-of-way, and construction phases of the project. Construction wasn't without its challenges either. Caltrans resident engineer Mark Loader was part of the team tasked with relocating hundreds of fish so the construction work could begin.
There were two fish stream diversions associated with this project where we had to divert the flows and then relocate fish before the flows were diverted. The first diversion with relocation we did early in the project, upstream of the project, and we probably relocated between 40 and 50 small salmonids and steelhead in that process. The second relocation was later on, and it was downstream of the bridge here. And at the existing culvert outlet, we had a sizable scour hole, probably 6 to 8 feet deep and 20 feet in diameter. And we had to relocate the fish out of that hole so we could divert water around to do stream restorative work. And we probably pulled close to 800 small salmonid and large steelhead out of that hole.
After the fish were relocated, construction got underway, not only on the culvert, but on the new bridge and road above it.
And realizing that State Route 96 crosses Fort Goff Creek, we couldn't just pull out the culvert and put a bridge in place. We have to ensure that we bring the roadway and the bridge up to current standards. And so those aspects had to be looked at. The curves, the shoulders on the roadway and the bridge, super elevation rate, all those aspects had to be looked at and made sure they're correct and meet current standards, or if not, at least get an exception to that standard.
During construction, the crews were faced with obstacles beyond their control, like the huge Happy Camp complex fire that started in August and burned extremely close to the construction site for more than 2 months, prompting evacuations in the area.
We knew we had men and equipment here to be able to handle the blaze should it, we'd be overrun. And fortunately, the fire did not do that, but it burned all around us for a long time.
Despite all the challenges that could have derailed this project, it was the efforts of many that kept it moving forward.
I think the major success of this Fort Goff Bridge project was that it brought together a lot of different entities, local, state, federal, tribal, all together into one project where we were able to combine the resources to get a project of that magnitude done in a way that honored everybody's different needs.
The Karuk tribe was one of them that was very concerned and part of this project from the very beginning. The people that use the river were concerned about it. The local landowners, as we came through and looked at possibly purchasing some right-of-way, they became very interested in this project. The community up the street, Syad, the people there in that community were, and even from the county aspect, the whole group was involved. Additionally, there's groups that want to see more fisheries in this river. The Mid-Klamath Watershed Council, that's a group that was very interested and also a part of this to some degree. And so overall, a large community, a large group of people.
Many of those people watched closely while the bridge across Fort Goff Creek took shape. A 60-foot precast concrete slab adorned with beautiful stone designed to reflect the area's natural beauty. Nearby sits a symbol of the very thing that brought these groups together, a beautiful emblem of a salmon inscribed with the names of the partners that played such a crucial role in this task. Below the bridge, indisputable signs this project was a success.
First season after the bridge was put in, we had nearly 70 Chinook reds up there, which is a shining success, immediate benefits. So I would say the project's been incredibly successful.
I think that's the beauty of these fish passage projects, is that you get instant results. So you just happen to hit it on the largest Chinook spawning run on record. And so there were more fish up Fort Goff than they'd ever seen in history. And a big part of that was because of this project.
For those who worked tirelessly on the Fort Goff Creek Restoration Project, success has been twofold.
Looking at the finished project and the attention to the detail and aesthetics, I think a lot of community folks feel proud of that project, and I think it's a legacy for the future. So there was a lot of community support.
One of the models we had with this project was removing a barrier and building a bridge, and we've built that bridge in many ways, I think.